Today on the Big 3 and 30 College, Duke basketball lands one of the top guards in the portal.
John Blackwell, the former Wisconsin Badgers star in the transfer portal, commits to Duke.
Florida will get a player returning next season.
The Florida Gators are getting Thomas Haugh back.
And North Carolina lands an in-state transfer.
Do you see how things can flip so quickly?
This is the Big 3 and 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 and 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 and 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Duke landed Wisconsin transfer John Blackwell, one of the top guards in the portal yesterday. JJ Jackson with Locked On Blue Devils has the story.
John Blackwell, the former Wisconsin Badgers star in the transfer portal, commits to Duke. He says, that's where I want to be. The visit went so well yesterday. He says, Duke is the place for me. So we'll talk about all that and more here with Kevin Conley from Ball Durham on the show. I've got Kevin here with me now. And Kevin, what a big get this is for Duke. You already learned about Caden Boozer returning. Patrick Gungba II says he wants to come back for another year. Sebastian Wilkins also, we got news. He'll officially come back, expecting the same to be played for Dame Sarr. We can go down the line, but let's just start big picture. What an addition this is for the Blue Devils to get John Blackwell.
Yeah, JJ, I think when you look at this first, Duke is not going to make many high-end portal acquisitions this offseason. It's going to be one or two maximum with the players you just said that are returning, add in the freshmen that are coming in the recruiting class as well. So the fact that you're able to get John Blackwell, who, I mean, let's be honest, of the players that are in the portal that have plans of playing college basketball next year, he might be the best. Milan Mochilovic out of Iowa State, he is in the portal, but he right now is fully focused on the NBA draft. So we don't know if he's playing college basketball. John Blackwell might be that best player that is going to play college basketball that went into the portal. And the fact that Duke was able to get him, the fact that, at least in my perspective, from what I have heard, it was always trending Duke, especially last weekend when Illinois basically got its entire roster to announce their return to the program for next season. That kind of pushed Duke to the finish line and that they were going to get Blackwell. I never thought UCLA was serious. Obviously, Louisville wasn't that serious. Let's be honest. There's only so much money to go around. And if they reportedly paid $9 million for Flory Badunga, Jackson Shellstat, and then whatever they paid for Carter Knox, I don't care how rich you are. There's just not enough money for a guy like John Blackwell. So everything was lining up in Duke's favor. All they had to do was, seal the envelope and get this thing to the finish line, and they're able to do it. He visited on Monday. He commits on Tuesday, and this is major for Duke because I don't know if he's going to be in line to be their leading scorer next year, but he's certainly going to be one of their top three scorers, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be one of the top vote getters for sure if you were to vote on who is that leading scorer on next year's team. And people certainly want to see what the full roster is going to look like. I think that's totally fair when we await some of these final decisions. Again, it's Tuesday. We've got until midnight Eastern for this transfer portal to fully close. As of right now, Caleb Foster is not there. Dame Sarr, not there. There's no expectation that Sarr would end up there. We just haven't heard any official announcements from him. Same goes for Isaiah Evans. And Cam Boozer. I think it'd be crazy if Cam Boozer enters the transfer portal at this point as he's off to the NBA. But this is the big news that John Blackwell is deciding to commit to Duke for this upcoming season. Let's take a look at some of his numbers specifically here this past year. 34 games played, nearly 34 minutes per game there as a 19 points per game score, 5 rebounds, 43% shooting from the floor, nearly 39% from three-point range, and an 86% free throw shooter. All great offensive numbers, and those are the reason why you'd feel pretty good about picking him as one of Duke's top scorers going into next season.
Yeah, JJ, look, when you look at his games and his performances this season, yes, early in the season, there were some great games. You look at the game in early January when he went for 26 points in Wisconsin's stunning win on the road against Michigan. But he truly got better as the season went on, and especially in the postseason. You look at 34 points against Washington in the third round, Wisconsin's first game of the Big Ten tournament. 31 points in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament against Illinois in an overtime win. 22 points in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Yes, I know Wisconsin lost that game to High Point, but he shot 8 of 16 from the field and 3 of 5 from three-point range. He had a double-double in that game with 22 and 10. So this is a player that got so much better as the season progressed. You can really see the jump he made from his freshman season, averaging only 8 points per game for Wisconsin, then to his sophomore season when he became a full-time starter and bumped up his scoring numbers to 15.8 points per game. And then this year, almost career highs across the board when you look at scoring, when you look at three-point percentage. John Blackwell, he's only gotten better as his career has progressed, and you're hoping that continues next year with Duke.
Now he gets to play on the biggest stage. Now you're playing for Duke. You'll be featured in so many spots. And I know that that's obviously a sales pitch in and of itself. And Jon Scheyer's gotten so good at making the pitch from his years as a player to being on staff with Mike Krzyzewski, now running his full thing and asking Mr. Blackwell to be one of the key guys. Man, it's firing. It's exciting to think about what this next year could bring. John Blackwell's already started a little bit of a media tour. He appeared on the field of 68 with Jeff Goodman talking a little bit about what was happening in terms of Duke's pitch. A quote from Blackwell, the Duke pitch: "Come here, have freedom. You can come here and be a draft pick, and that's always my dream. Come here and help us win a national championship. I love the campus. I love the people surrounding Duke. That's why I made the choice to be a Blue Devil." That's pretty selling. I love it. He's obviously championship-oriented, championship-focused. And Duke, we pride ourselves on having all these guys across the NBA and the careers that they're able to put forward and make. So kudos to John Blackwell for making this decision. I think he's really going to enjoy it, and I know for sure we're going to love getting a chance to cheer him on this basketball season, Kev.
And it's a big transfer portal ad with no stipulation, right?
Yeah.
Look at this time next year, or last year, I should say, you got the big transfer portal ad and said you're coward, but there was a major stipulation that he was still going to try to make the NBA. He eventually does and becomes a top 15 pick. That's not the case with John Blackwell. And JJ, regardless of what Duke does, I think in the transfer portal, that's really it. Even roster retention, can make the argument their starting five is on their roster. When you look at Pat Gongba at the 5, I think you're going to have Cameron Williams at the 4. The 3 spot, I think it could be Adama Sarr, assuming he comes back, just because he has that size and positional length. John Blackwell at the 2, and then your guess could be as good as mine for point guard, whether it is Caden Boozer, Deron Rippey, and then obviously we have to have that conversation with Caleb Foster.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves. It's over at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support your show by saying you heard about Indeed right here. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. Florida basketball got a huge boost when Thomas Haugh returning instead of leaving for the NBA draft. Brandon Olson with Locked On Gators has more.
The Florida Gators are getting Thomas Haugh back. We got this announcement earlier today that Thomas Haugh would be back. hinted at it a little bit last week that was my expectation. And here we go. You're getting Thomas Haugh back. Ruben Chinyelu has declared for the NBA draft, and also in his declaration said, if I do choose to come back to school, it'll be at Florida. So a lot of guys will say, hey, I'm declaring for the NBA draft and entering the transfer portal with a do not contact tag. And if I don't go to the NBA, then I'll go ahead and come on back. But here, Ruben Chinyelu has said, hey, I'm going to declare for the NBA draft. And if I don't stay, I'm coming right back to Gainesville. Thomas Haugh said, hey, I can go to the NBA draft. I'm going to stay right here in Gainesville. And I will say this. I think that the Florida Gators, let's say you get Ruben Chinyelu back, right? Which I'm going to operate under the thought that he will be back. Not saying he's going to be back, but I'm going to operate under the thought he will be back, mostly because I don't think the NBA is going to value him as much as the Florida Gators would. And by value, sure, you could say money. I don't think that Ruben Chinyelu is really the type that has a offensive role in the NBA. And so I do think that until you get that, you're not going to be valued very much. We're here to get it in college, and if not, you go to the NBA, be a second-round pick, try to carve that out for yourself there. But I do think that the Florida Gators, let's assume CJ Ingram is back, since there has not been an announcement that he'll be back, but he also hasn't announced entering the portal, and today's the last day that he could do that. So I'm going to, for now, work under the assumption CJ Ingram will be back. We know Thomas Haugh is coming back. We know Alex Condon is coming back. I think Ruben Chinyelu will be back. We know Boogie Fland is coming back. We know Urban Klobuchar is coming back. We know both of the Brown brothers are coming back. We, again, like I said, we're assuming CJ Ingram's back. We know Alex Lloyd is coming back. And I think that right now you kind of just go, all right, is Jones Lay going to be our backup center? Because outside of that, that's the only thing you would need. Again, we're working under the assumption that Ruben Chinyelu is back. But outside of that, you're returning most of your guys, right? The biggest change is you've lost Micah Hanlogton, which does suck. But you are replacing Xavier Lee with Denzel Aberdeen. And I do think that that's a better fit for the Florida Gators. I don't necessarily want to say that I think Denzel Aberdeen is better than Xavier Lee, because I do think Xavier Lee is still a pretty damn good point guard. But I will say that Denzel Aberdeen fits this team better than Xavier Lee. Denzel Aberdeen shot, 36% from three last year. I think he's going to be more of an off-ball guy this year for the Florida Gators, and I think that he could thrive in that role and produce in that role. So I do think that you could say, hey, with spacing, everything gets better. Thomas Haugh needs to improve his jumper. Alex Condon needs to find his jumper again. It doesn't need to be elite, but it needs to be just at least a little bit of a threat, right? You can't have Condon and Chinyelu both not shooting from three at all. They shot a combined, what was it? Ruben Chinyelu shot 0 for 2. They combined for 9 for 55 shooting from three. Not exactly ideal, right? Alex Condon shot 9 for 53. You can't have just poor shooting throughout there. So Thomas Haugh shooting 32.8%. Got to pick that up a little bit. Urban Klobuchar shooting 40.6% from three. You add in Denzel Aberdeen, who again shot 36.3% from three. Isaiah Brown shot 34.6%. You improve that a little bit. You're talking about a team that has a bit more spacing than they had last year. I think will be better defensively, I know they'll be better defensively when you add Denzel Aberdeen to replace Xavier Lee. I think Xavier Lee was an all right defender. I think Denzel Aberdeen is probably a shade below elite. And so you got Boogie, you got Denzel Aberdeen. That's a really, really good perimeter duo defensively, right? So you figure everything else out. Again, Boogie also, I'm not saying this to excuse anything because I do think he's just not an awesome shooter. But Boogie also had the surgery last year on the, I want to say wrist. Now, was getting back into it. And so hopefully now that he has an actual full offseason to work, will develop a little bit more of a jumper, where I do think last year you had the offseason he wasn't full go the entire time. And so I do think that hopefully now with a little bit more development, you'll see him develop a bit more of a jump shot where he shot 24% from three last year. If you can get that to even just like 28 or 29%, it's not good, right? And you're going to hurt the team shooting like that, but it's better than 24%. And if we're talking about, hey, one more made three per game, that'll help, right? Like that'll improve the team percentage a little bit, where if your worst shooter shooting 29%, I'll take that. Rumors started flying on Monday that if Steve Kerr were to step down from the Golden State Warriors after their elimination, then Todd Golden would be on that list. And I don't deny that Todd Golden would be on that list, but I spent Monday asking around the people that I know around Florida basketball, which to be frank, not super in touch there. But from everybody I spoke to, they were kind of just like, yeah, like we think he'll leave for the NBA eventually, but we don't think it'll be right now. And I think it was Zach Abelverdi, but it was definitely Gators Online. I think it was Zach Abelverdi for Gators Online said that that people he spoke to, not concerned that Todd Golden is still working on an extension, that they don't think he's going to leave right now for the NBA. I know that Chandler Parsons on, I think it's FanDuel Sports Network, he was like, hey, I'll tell you right now, Todd Golden ain't going anywhere. And I do agree. I do believe him. I don't think Todd Golden's going anywhere. And partially because of the Thomas Haugh announcement makes me think that. Not that Todd Golden's going, oh, I'm getting Thomas Haugh back, I'm not going anywhere. But I do think that you're getting, I don't think Thomas Haugh goes, oh, I'm coming back to Florida if Todd Golden's on the way out. I think that, I would like to think that Todd would be like, hey, you know what? I think I'm leaving. And then maybe Haugh hits the portal or declares for the NBA draft. But that didn't happen. And so that makes me think that, you know what? I think Todd Golden is coming back. We've talked about this before, especially when we talked about the North Carolina job opening up a few weeks ago to a month ago, whatever it was. And I don't think that Todd Golden would leave Florida for another college job. Been very open about that. I don't think there's another school that would ever embrace Todd Golden the way Florida embraces him. And I don't just mean like, oh yeah, well you win, we love you. I mean his attitude. I think the Florida Gators fan base loves it. Everybody I speak to about the Florida Gators fan base, they always go like, you guys are just jerks and obnoxious and this and that. And it's like, you're so right. We are. I love that. I do. And I think Todd Golden fits that. I think Todd Golden is all of those things. And I think Todd Golden likes being all of those things. And so I think that having this fan base embrace him the way that Florida has, I don't think another school would draw him away. If he ever leaves, it'll be for the NBA, I think. And honestly, when the Warriors report came out, I was 100% just like, oh, that might get him, right? Because of course, Florida hired him from San Francisco. Would make sense if Golden State was like, hey, you want to come back over here and be our guy? And especially, Will Richard is there. You got a bunch of shooters, including the greatest shooter of all time in Steph Curry, who's obviously not what he used to be, but is still phenomenal. And so I think that when you look at all that, it's like, all right, it might make sense for you to go. Like it might make sense if you want to go, but all reports indicate that he will be back. And frankly, I think part of it is the retention that you have right now. I think that he recognizes he's in the championship window still. But I also think that part of it is he wants to surpass Billy Donovan. And I can't say that factually, definitively, that I've talked to Todd about it. But just something about him just gives off this really competitive vibe. And you have a window to become the greatest basketball coach in Florida Gators history, right? Like you have that window to do it. Had you gone back to back this year, and it's like, all right, well, you went back to back pretty quickly. We can see what happens, but you have a window where you're still a championship contender. You're, I think, going to be the championship favorite going into the season. But I think that you have that opportunity to pass Billy Donovan with more success, doing it in a shorter period of time too. I think Todd Golden wants to do that before he even really considers leaving. And hey, I'll take it. Like, I'll take Todd Golden and coaching my team however long he wants to coach my team. I will be happy with it. But I think that's where I kind of view this whole this whole Todd Golden maybe leaving situation is. I don't think it happens yet. I still think he got him for another couple years, and I also don't think he'll leave for any NBA job. I think he'll leave for the right NBA job, and I think that the Warriors job is the right NBA job. I just don't know if it's the right NBA job for him right now, or just that he wants to leave right now. So I think he will leave eventually for the NBA, but I don't think it happens right now. I think the Warriors would be a team he would go to, but for now, we've got Todd Golden seemingly coming back, hopefully signing a contract extension. So as a Florida Gators fan, I'm just going to go wee and say we got him and be happy about it, and be happy that the Florida Gators are going to be in national title talks again next season.
The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. As we round out the regular season, the Celtics play the Knicks in Madison Square Garden tonight. Line is at -5 on FanDuel. If you want to go the other way, Boston money line is 176, plus 176 on that line. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. North Carolina added NC State transfer Matt Abel to bolster. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. North Carolina added NC State transfer Matt Abel to bolster its roster for next season. Isaac Shade with Locked On Tar Heels tells you what he can bring to the roster.
First off, before we talk Matt Abel or Logie, do you see how things can flip so quickly? This is why I'm always like, patience. Literally yesterday on the show, or on the Tuesday show, I guess we recorded it live last night, was saying, I know that we have PTSD from waiting and then not getting anything in the Hubert Davis era, but this is a new staff. Things are coming. Just wait, and it's coming. And now it's here. So also in basketball, you don't need 30 dudes committed to change your team like you do in football. 1, 2, 3 guys can make all the difference for you. And now North Carolina has gotten they've gotten 2 starters in today, 2 probable starters, and 1 guy that will provide some much needed depth and heft, and that's good news. So things flip quickly, and you just got to be able to adjust and react, and there we go. So Matt Abel, Maxime Logie become the 3rd and 4th Tar Heels to commit to Michael Malone out of the transfer portal. And this dude, Coach Malone, is off and running. I've got the roster makeup chart. We'll pull that up here in a minute. I said some names in the cold open that you've probably never heard of before. Bernie Mock, Fred Schwartzberg, and Bones McKinney. Maybe you know the name Bones McKinney. And I added Matt Abel to make that trio a quartet. Who are they? They are the 4 players that have gone directly from NC State to North Carolina. And Matt Abel becomes the first one to do it since, you ready for this? World War II. Those other 3 guys were all pre-Second Great War, or whatever some people call it. And now Matt Abel does it. And here's the thing. This was bound to happen at some point in this transfer portal era. Recently, we had seen 2 different Tar Heels go to NC State, one directly, one with a stop in between. Dontrez Styles went from Carolina, where he hit a crazy important 3-pointer in overtime against Baylor, thank you very much, in 2022, to Georgetown, then back to NC State. And then last offseason, as we all know, Van Allen Lubin kind of played everybody a little bit, Ven. and ended up going to NC State, where his coach desperately wanted to play him 28 minutes a game because Hubert Davis had grossly misused him. Well, now that coach said, sayonara, I'm off to LSU. And I think that's the thing. If Will Wade is still at NC State, I don't even know if we're having this conversation today. In fact, we're probably not. I mean, maybe Matt Abel still goes into the transfer portal, but I guess we'll never know with that. But now Paul McNeil is not a Tar Heel and Matt Abel is. And there you go. The other part of this is poor Roy Williams. You know, he just hates NC State so much, and now he's going to have to cheer for this young man. But I think there's a difference in NC State, the entity. This is my little dialogue for those of us who are having trouble wrapping our brains around the NC State of it all. NC State, the entity, and the fans is one thing. But the players, the guys that choose to go there, some of them are very NC State-y, you know what I mean? But not all of them. Not all of them are Dave Doran and Will Wade and whomever. And so, and you know it, so many of these players are buddies with each other and they played AAU together. And yes, they're bitter rivals on the floor, but they get off it and they're bros and they're dudes and hey, let's go eat, whatever it is, right? And so I can wrap my arms around Matt Abel and embrace him. I know that's going to be very difficult for some of us because this is the first time it's happened. Thankfully, we've seen not necessarily NC State, but, on the baseball team, Carolina's starting catcher, Macon Winslow, who's one of the best players on this Diamond Heels team that's number 2 in the nation, came over from Duke. He was their catcher last year. So this is going to happen. And I've always wondered when it would, and I've always assumed, though, that it would happen with NC State coming to Carolina before a Duke player came to Carolina, at least in men's basketball. That's going to be the thing, is when eventually a Blue Devil makes his way from Durham to Chapel Hill. So we'll watch out for that. I mentioned Paul McNeil's name a second ago. Obviously, there was a lot of conversation about Paul McNeil, Matt Abel. Do you take both? One, can you have two Wolfpack former players on your roster? Paul McNeil, everything sounds like he's staying at NC State. It's been trending that way for a while. And Matt Abel, as I've processed it, and I just said this on our other live earlier today, is the Wolfpack player I would have rather had between the two. Yes, Paul McNeil brings something really interesting in terms of some sharpshooting that I think Carolina will need. But Matt Abel has the much higher ceiling, in my opinion. He is a guy that came in as a top 30 player, a top 30 recruit into his freshman year last year. And you know how guys take a massive leap from their freshman year to their sophomore year. And we fully expect Matt Abel to be able to do that. I think he is a potential rising superstar. And what's interesting is I know there was all this desire for Juke Harris. My opinion is that this get, along with the Terrence Brown, kind of signals that Carolina is out on Juke Harris. Not that they wouldn't want him, but similar to not wanting to wait for Billy Donovan, who just today, the last day of the portal being open, decided to leave the Bulls. If you wait on Juke Harris, you're waiting potentially up to a month and 6 days, because that's the last day to pull out of the NBA draft early entry. And so Carolina, to me, is saying, you know what? It'd be great to get Juke. We went up. We had a meeting with him at his hometown in Salisbury. And man, what a show of strength by Michael Malone to say, I'm not just assenting to letting Michigan have him. We're going to go pay a visit. But I think what Carolina has done here is wisely said, yes, Juke is the more proven commodity, but Matt Abel is the guy that could have that same trajectory and launch into that this season. And if you get him, you're getting him at a steep discount. We don't know the numbers. We don't know what the numbers for Juke would have been. And I'm not even saying that Carolina can't go still get Juke Harris. I'm just saying I think this means that they won't. And I know when you compare Juke Harris's numbers this year, his sophomore year, to Matt Abel's numbers from this year, his freshman year, it's like, well, Juke blew him out of the water. Sure, fine. But why don't you do me a favor? Would you go and look at Juke Harris's numbers from his freshman year and compare that to Matt Abel's numbers from his freshman year at NC State? I'll save you the trouble. I'm pulling up Juke's player page right now. Juke Harris, freshman year at Wake Forest, played 19 minutes a game, 6.1 points a game, shot 30.3% from three. Let's just pause there, and I'll compare that for you to Matt Abel's freshman numbers. 8.8 points a game in 21.8 minutes, 35.5% from three. Just slightly north of Juke in all of those. Yes, Juke is a little bit taller, 6'7", 200 pounds. Matt Abel, 6'6", 205. Very comparable there. Juke Harris, freshman year, free throw, 2.4 attempts a game, 59.5%. And it grew this year to 78.3% on 7 attempts a game. He started driving. But Matt Abel this year, 1.6 free throw attempts a game, so fewer than Juke his freshman year, but shot 79.6%, far better. For Matt Abel this year, 3.4 rebounds a game. Juke Harris his freshman year, 2.8 rebounds a game. You just start looking at all of that. Matt Abel, 1.2 steals a game. Juke Harris, 0.5 steals per game. Let's look at the defensive rating. Very comparable their freshman years to one another. So I just say all that to say, I think what Carolina has done here is a shrewd and savvy move. They say, we're going to try to get the next Juke Harris at a steep discount where we can save money that we could farm out to other guys at other positions and hedge our bets that we can in aggregate make up for what we would have given to Juke Harris. And I tell you what, like you think about in stock market and all those things, what do you want to do? You want to diversify. I would have loved to have had Juke Harris, but I also think this is a really wise move by how Carolina is playing it. He's got a high ceiling. Again, did well this first year at NC State. What you need if you're Carolina, you got to have him to hit shots. He's got a nice free throw percentage. I'd like to see him to get to the line a little bit more, but he's a two-way guy. He's going to do it for you offensively, and he's going to do it for you defensively. And so I just think there's a lot of wins in getting Matt Abel. It ain't Juke Harris. I'm saying that.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.